Welcome to From Rock Bottom, the podcast where we explore real stories of struggle, survival, and strength. Each weekly episode features honest conversations with people who faced mental health battles, addiction, trauma, and life's darkest moments, and found a way to rise again. A quick content warning: some of the topics we discuss may be distressing or triggering. We talk openly about mental health, addiction, and other sensitive issues. Please listen with care, and if you need to, take a break or reach out for support. You're not alone, and this space is here to remind you of that.
Boom, and we are on. Today I'm joined by Dean Simpson-Humphreys, and he's going to share with us his 20-year love story. All the good, the bad, through sickness and in health, and then moving forward, coping after losing the love of his life. Dean, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for travelling here today.
It's been quite a good journey, actually.
Good, I'm glad. Right, Dean, before we get into everything, just for everyone, I'd like to start right the way back to your childhood.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Wow. Well, I was born in Oldham. Can't tell from the accent at the minute. Does change. Gosh, yeah. I had a happy childhood.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've only recently been back to the house where I was as a child, because I always thought the house that my mum and dad are in now was the house that we moved into. I remember living in flats, but then there was a house before that.
Okay.
And I've only in the past 3 weeks only seen that house. And I've always heard about it, but it never resonated.
Yeah.
And then when I saw it the other day, it was like flashbacks.
Yeah, brought it all back. Unlocked a memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was good.
So normal childhood, mum, dad?
Yeah, mum, dad.
Yeah.
I've got two sisters, older sister, then there's me, then my younger sister, then my younger brother.
Yeah. I always ask this. Some people say, nah, never had any issues growing up. It's just I like to get an understanding. What was your perspective of mental health growing up?
It was never really on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
And even the first episode of a mental health problem or issue with myself didn't start until I was probably early 20s.
Okay.
And it was something that came to me this morning driving down here, because I finished school, went to sixth form, got a job working in a local bank, and then worked my way through the bank and changed different banks and everything. And then I ended up in a call centre, and it was only then that I don't even think it was called mental health even then.
Yeah.
But I remember there was one day I was going to work, and then I sat on a bench at the train station, and I must have been sat there all day, but didn't realise that time had gone by.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know. It was just like everything was blank, and I didn't even turn up for work, and it was like missed calls, didn't even hear me mobile ringing.
Was this for a reason or just because?
That is like the first episode of what was that?
Yeah. But yeah, that's fine. Like, people always think like because you're depressed or something, there has to be a reason. But sometimes I just feel like fucking shit, and I might want to top myself for no reason at all.
Yeah.
And that's normal. But I feel like a lot of people who have never really suffered too much they think there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason, especially GPs.
Yeah.
So at that time, when you went through that, did you seek professional help or push it off?
No, just brushed it off.
Yeah. So we'll take it back a tad further into your childhood, your sexuality.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine that's a challenging time as well.
Yeah, well, I've never come out.
Okay.
Which is really, yeah.
We got first, yeah, we got first.
Yes, here I am. Yeah, I've never sat down with mum and dad and said, I'm gay. I've never, like, friends have always said, oh, I came out as bisexual first, just as not to let anyone down. Or
put the leg out the closet first.
And I was like, And I've just been me. And I've never explained my sexuality. I've never had, I just never, I mean, the first thing that I can remember is when I was 21 and I was working at the call centre and we all went out to the gay village in Manchester. And it was literally, went into a bar and the drag queen who was DJing and doing the show there and everything was like, oh my God, you look rough. And was like, are you gay? And I was like, yeah. And it was like the first time someone had asked me if I'm gay. And the drag queen was just like, just being drag queen with all the banter. And was just like, oh, no, you look awful. Get back in the closet. And that was it. That was like, right, okay. But
Your mum and dad never say anything to you when you was younger?
no, like my younger sister always says like, she remembers like talking to my dad and was like, you know Dean's gay, don't you? And my dad was just like, it's my son.
Don't care as long as he's got
So,
a heart.
yeah,
Yeah,
and,
of course,
and she was like, oh, okay, but my family are all just
left you to
just
it.
left, yeah.
Well, when they watch this, they're in for a shocker, and no one
I know, yeah. the funny thing, like my younger brother's gay as well.
Yeah.
And like he's never had to come out. It's just the person that we are.
Yeah. No, look, I've got 5 brothers, and my one brother's gay. And like, when we were all younger, we could just tell he was a bit different. Like, we were playing with guns and action men, and he would have posters of steps on the wall.
Yeah.
And disco lights.
Yeah, that resonates, yeah.
That was it. And like, when we were younger, obviously boys being boys, like we'd always we just call him gay. And then when you come out the closet, like nobody actually cared. Like that stopped. Like, okay, you've admitted it now.
Yeah.
So move on.
We knew.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? But that was it. Like I said, I've got 5 brothers with guns, PlayStations, Grand Theft Auto, and he was disco lights, smoke machines.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go into the bedroom, you'd be like fucking stars in your eyes. You come out a different person.
My mum and dad bought me a DJ set. And I was always like first one on the dance floor at any parties, family parties and everything, always on the dance floor. And it's the first, when I got a cassette player as a child.
Yeah.
And the cassette, I always remember, it was a double cassette with a blue cover with this woman on with dark hair. And there was 2 songs that I used to play all the time from it. The first one was When Will I See You Again from the 3 Degrees. And I love them. Still to this day, I love them, love the voices. And the second one was Charlene, I've Been to Paradise, which was ended up in Priscilla, Queen. And I was like, well, there it was.
I think we've cracked it. I think if any of your sons have got disco lights and all that kind of thing, yeah, we know where they're going.
Yeah, definitely.
But we'll fast forward it now. Start your love story.
Gosh. July 2000, I went to Ibiza on my own.
Why?
Why?
I like to get the background.
Yeah, I was in a relationship previously, and we'd split up, and it was literally like, he was like, just go away kind of thing, and
he did.
He paid for the holiday, which was for me was nerve-wracking because I was going on my own. I was going abroad somewhere I'd never been, and was just like, oh my God. And I remember I was flying out from Gatwick Airport, and I just remember like, oh, I can't do this, felt sick. Went and brought off a big brekkie and was like, I'm gonna have to eat something. I was just like, I can't eat it. I got on a plane and I had the whole road to myself, and then halfway there I was crying. I was just like, what am I doing? But at this point, I'd phoned into work sick, and I was just like in this state of, right, what am I doing? And I landed at the airport, got on this coach which was taking me to the hotel, and it went to the beach, and it was going up this hill, and I could see all of Ibiza just getting smaller and smaller. And then when you think, oh, where am I going? And on that, walking into reception in the hotel, there was two guys who got off the coach with me, and they were like, we were on your flight, we've seen you on the flight, are you here on your own or are you meeting friends? And I was like, no, I'm here on my own. And they were asking me about who booked the holiday with. I was like, oh, I didn't book it, but it was with this company. And they were the managing directors of the company,
No
of
way.
the holiday company. So they were like, when you've checked in and sorted yourself, we'll go around then and introduce you to people in the bars. So if you're going in on your own, you've got someone to look out for.
Yeah.
I was like, fantastic. Day one, sorted. Day two, I literally opened the blinds and my room was it was on the first floor. It was just like a long studio apartment. I had a balcony on this side which looked over Ibiza Old Town, so I could look out at night. It was just beautiful. And then the window overlooked the swimming pool, and then you could see the beach as well. And there were these three lads who were just always in the same spot. Every time I looked out my window, they were always there. And I was just watching them, just like watching the world go by and just watching them doing their thing. And then when I went out that night, I came back and there was a note under my hotel room door. And it was off this lad who'd left his mobile number and said he's on holiday with his mates, and he'd seen me at the window, and if I wanted to meet up for a drink, then just message him. And I thought, well, I'm here on my own, I'll message him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that lad wasn't Gary, it was his mate. But I ended up going out drinking with the three of them. And we went to this bar, and literally me and Gary were sat next to each other, and we were just chatting all night. And it was just a beautiful time. There was I was dancing, and I was dancing in Ibiza in these gold hot pants, and Gary did come up to me, and I'd not met him, so this was just before, and I'd not met him, and he was like, can I get you a drink? First of all, he said, do you speak English? And obviously I've got this Oldham Manc accent, quite strong. And he was like, oh, because he was from Liverpool. And he was like, can I get you a drink? And I was like, no. So he was like, kept coming back, and I get you a drink, and I get you a drink. And then I was like, no, but if you come back at 4 o'clock, not drunk, you can get me a drink.
Yeah.
And we went to the beach, and we spoke. And again, that was just like, we'd known each other for such a long time.
Yeah.
And then we just never, from those moments, we just never then parted.
Did you look past the holiday?
It wasn't like a holiday, because then because I started working out there.
Okay.
And for me, I just fell into this, I'm staying here, I'm dancing, and Gary was going home, and I was like, And then, you know, when your realisation comes in where you think, I've got to go back and I've got to earn money, and I'd already had insight. I'd applied for a job, and I was moving to Liverpool, and I'd got a house ready to move to, and it was just those initial parts of where you think, right, okay, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
And Gary was going back home now. It was like, where in Liverpool do you live? And he was like, I live in Wavertree. And you think, that sounds familiar. And I'm like, oh, that's where I'm moving to. And he's like, all right. And I was like, yeah, I've got a job. And the street that he ended up moving to was like a couple of streets away from where he lived. When you and you just think, wow.
You didn't know nobody on holiday, you met him.
Yeah.
You don't know nobody in Liverpool, and he's there.
Yeah.
I think he was stalking.
Yeah. We always said we'd found each other in a previous life.
Yeah.
It's mad.
When you found out he was in Liverpool as well, and literally like the street away from you, what was your mindset then? Was you thinking like, this could be something, or?
Yeah, it was literally like, oh, is this meant to be?
Yeah, fate.
Yeah. I just thought, oh, okay. It was only then with the, like little insights of where you think, oh, is this meant to be? These little moments that add up.
Yeah. So you've had a breakup, gone to Ibiza on your own, met a group of lads, had a little whirlwind with Gary. You've stayed out there partying, dancing, working. You know, that life comes to an end. I need to get back home. You find a job in Liverpool.
Yeah.
You're talking to Gary, and it turns out he's a couple streets away. So you're now back in Liverpool. How does that progress to you two falling in love?
Wow. I forgot. It from the first moment we met and looking into his eyes, his eyes just captured me. And then he had the most wicked sense of humour. And we literally were, I don't think we weren't seeing each other long until we moved, and then we moved in together. And literally we did everything together.
Yeah.
And it was just like having your best mate and having the best time. Just every day was just not a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What year was this?
Gosh, 2002 we would have got our first place.
Okay. And then how does that progress to marriage?
Wow.
Because that was like quite new back then as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had, it was a civil partnership in 2011. So we'd literally, so civil partnership had just really come out then. And I mean, we'd had a few breakups in between, which was always us. But we talked about it and was like, yeah, come on, let's do it. And literally, we just used we had our anniversary date, which was the 30th of July. And we'd planned, at first we were going to have it, the place where we had it wasn't the original place we wanted. And then when we went to see the place, we were like, right, okay. We had no connection to the place. And then on the day, that felt just perfect. I can't find the word to say how beautiful it was. And the civil partnership ceremony was for us, but everything else after, and seeing everyone else enjoying themselves, that was like, we bought ourselves the biggest present here. Yeah. Because we brought everyone together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, it's a whirlwind.
Mm.
Yeah. As if it's meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's getting on with your family, everything's fine.
Yeah. Gosh.
Just perfect.
Yeah. I mean, his mum and dad welcomed me with open arms. My mum and dad welcomed him with open arms. Everyone got on. I mean, he was such a large character. And Like, he would have you laughing within seconds of meeting him.
Yeah.
And just pure entertainer.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So then, from my understanding as well, you was living together and your place got set on fire.
Yeah, and that happened. We were just coming up to our first anniversary as a married couple in the civil partnership. And I was in work and my mobile was going off, and it was the guy from the local off license. Yeah. And he was like, what is your house number? And he was like, don't tell me it's number, I can't even remember what number the house was now. And I was like, yeah, that's ours. And he was like, it's on fire. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, you need to get home now. The house is on fire. He was like, I've tried ringing Gary, but I can't get through to him. And I was like, right, okay. And I put the phone down. And I was like, Gary's in work. And I was like, no, he's just finished nights, so he would have been in bed. So I was like, ringing Gary, couldn't get any answer. And then I went to my boss and I was like, it's okay if I go to lunch early. And she was like, yeah, okay. I was like, okay. So just had a phone call to my house is on fire. So I'm just going to go and see what's what, and then I'll be back. She's like, okay. But I went back to my desk and started working. And she was like, you're not going home? And I was like, oh yeah. And I don't know, like, it just hadn't just... I don't know if I couldn't comprehend it or what. I was like, okay. And I remember driving home, and it gets there, and literally, I think there was like 3 fire engines. I could just see all this smoke. And I parked up, and I gets out the car and walks over, and this copper comes towards me and was like, you okay? And I was like, oh yeah, that's my house. He was like, you're Dean? I was like, yeah. And he was like, I've got Gary in the car. And I was like, okay. I was like, were you in the house? And he was like, no. He'd gone, instead of going to bed, he'd gone, because it was his last nights, to stay up. So he'd gone to his mum's. So his mum and his mum's neighbour were doing all the entry as like a garden and everything. So he was helping his mum and left his mobile in the house. So obviously he'd not heard his mobile, but somebody had got through to him eventually. So we were then told to sit in the back of a police car, and we're watching the house fire, and then all of a sudden you hear it's just like, and we're like, oh, that's got to be like the ceiling falling in or something. And the policeman said to me, do you know anyone who's black? And I went, no. And he's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah. He said, have you seen anybody hanging around or anything like that? I was like, no. And I was like, why would he ask me if I know anyone who's black? And at the time, I was just like, I don't know any, like racking my brains. I worked at the time with junior doctors, so I knew a lot of people of colour. But I never saw them as people of colour.
Yeah.
So if somebody says to me, do you know anyone who's black? I'm like, no, because I don't see colour.
Yeah.
So then he said, have you had any visitors recently to the house or anything like that? I was like, no, nobody that we don't know.
Yeah.
Or, and he was like, okay. He said, there's something been etched into the walls, and it said, they didn't know if it said crew or screw, and they said to us, only the police and the fire brigade who have been in the house, and now me and Gary knew what was etched in there, so not to say anything to anyone. And we were like, okay. And they told us to go to Gary's mum's and stay there, and somebody will come and speak to us. And we were like, okay. But it didn't make sense what they'd said had been etched on the wall, and they're still putting the fire out. And then we went back to Gary's mum's, and we got the phone call to say the police will be round to speak to us in a bit. The house fire has now been put out, but we can't go back to the house. So we're like, okay. So it was just like disbelief, like trying to think about what they were saying and what had happened. And then later on that night, the police said to us we were allowed to go back to the house and see it if we wanted to. So we went up and we had to meet the locksmith because he had to board the house up, and we had to get the key off him. And we got there and we walked in and everything had gone. And the police had explained to us that somebody had broken in through the back door and there was accelerants all over the back room. We had a dining table, and they said there was a pile of clothes that they'd used to set the fire with the accelerants. So they'd obviously been upstairs and got clothes and stuff like that, and etched on the wall. And we could see, the wall was painted like a deep green, but you could see it all etched in over like the archway. And we were like, we don't know what that means. So they were like, okay. Now, 2 days before, unbeknown to us, there was a meeting of some racial group in a club around the corner from ours. So they thought it was racially motivated, and they'd attached it to that. We were like, that doesn't make sense, because we're white. And if it was a homophobic slur, I could understand it. Yeah. So it didn't make sense. And then at that point, we had to phone our house insurance, and they were trying to find us somewhere to stay. We ended up sleeping on people's couches. We ended up staying in a hotel for a couple of days. And on the night we were driving to the hotel, the police said to us, don't speak to anyone. When you drive into the hotel, drive with your visors down and try and drive in a different route just to see if anyone is following you. So then kind of paranoia sits in to think, I'm being followed. Why am I being followed?
Yeah.
What have I done? And Gary, we were exactly the same, and we just couldn't get our heads around it. And we were told, like, when we got to the hotel, not to tell them what had happened, not to tell them where we were from. And we literally got there, and it must have been about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. We got there, and the receptionist was like, oh, you've had a terrible ordeal, and give us both a double whiskey. And then she was like, I'll show you 2 rooms. So it was like, how does she know? So then this paranoia is kicking in, like, what is going on? You're like, who's told her? So obviously it's come through from the insurance that we've had a house fire and we're staying there and the insurance paying for it and everything. Yeah. So obviously she knew, but at that point we're like, well, how does she know? So we were sat in the room absolutely paranoid. It's like, well, we can't speak to anyone. And the realisation of we've lost everything hadn't even hit us by then either. And the police came to see us the next morning, and we were interviewed separately, and they were asking us again about people of colour. And then they said to us, "Do you know your landlady?" And I said, "Well, no, because we're renting off a company, so don't know the landlady." And they were asking questions if we had any links to prisons and things like that. No. And it transpires that our landlady was a prison officer, and the attack was a racial attack on her. And from that transpired, weeks after that, her car was getting slashed and the windows were being put in when she lived at that address. But obviously we'd lived there for a while, so you'd think, well, the police were saying like the house had been being watched. We were like, well, if the house was being watched, they'd know that two white guys are living in.
When they broke in, they'd have seen your wedding photos and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it just didn't make sense whatsoever. And then the realisation kicked in that we'd lost everything. And we had to go, when the insurance had to come out to assess the house, and they were like, we'll have to meet you at the house. And we were like, we don't want to go there. We literally don't want to go there. And he was like, well, you have to meet me there, and we have to walk around the house. And we were like, well, there's nothing there to see. And again, the sense of logic, we'd lost that.
Yeah.
And we met him at the door, and we opened the lock, opened what was left of the door, and he was like, oh, we can't go in there. And then you think, oh, yeah. No shit, Sherlock, we can't. And we ended up going back to Gary's mum's because she was just down the road. And it was that, yeah, nothing in the house is salvageable. Everything has gone. And then we were like, we've literally got the clothes that we're wearing, and that's it.
How do you rebuild after that?
It was hard. I remember I phoned up work to say I'm not coming in because the house fire. But when you think, it's like, how do you explain you've lost everything? Because you always hear people go, oh, I've had nothing. And then you see people carrying on with their lives, and you're like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And I remember I woke up early and was walking around Liverpool city centre, and it must have been about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep. I was walking around, and it started raining, and I was like, oh, that feels cold. I had no socks and shoes on. And it was just that realisation of, what's going on? And I think at that point, we just both were like, we can't cope here. And my mum and dad came up, and they were like, come on, we'll take you shopping to get some clothes. And Gary's mum and dad did the same. But it was just like the sense of who we were. We built that life together.
Yeah.
We were just coming up to that anniversary, and everything had gone.
Mm-hmm. Your marital home's gone.
Yeah. And Gary's mum kept saying to me about, oh, your wedding album. And we were like, oh, it was just you'd be like, oh, where's that? And you'd forget.
Yeah. That's me, like the practicability of things. Like, I think like you've lost everything. You've got to start fresh, and like, you don't realise the little thing, like everything costs money.
Yeah.
A plate set, for example, like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to literally buy absolutely fresh. Not only rebuild yourself, all your own clothes, your wardrobe.
Yeah. It was literally like, being off work sick, because just trying to deal with the mental
Did
state.
they look after you or not?
Work were really understanding. I had an amazing,
Okay.
amazing boss. She was just so supportive, would always check in, was never judgmental. And same with Gary. He worked in the hospital, and his manager as well was just so supportive. But I think the first initial point where you say, "Oh, I've had a house fire and I've lost everything," nobody understands that you've lost everything until like it was in the local paper, and then people were like, "Is that you? Is that your house?" And it was like, "Yeah." And until it was in the paper, and then like word gets around, I think then people started to understand. But that was like 3 weeks down the line.
Yeah.
And we had the community we lived in. They all had a collection for us, and Gary's sister and friends put on like this benefit night, if you call it, to try and raise some money for us to it. And that came off the back of Gary's sister had gone to the local supermarket, and they had you know, the baskets for the homeless where you could put food in, and she inquired about food because we'd lost our home and everything. They were like, "Oh, they're not eligible." It's just like, okay. And it's things like that that have now taught me how to deal with people and to look at things in a different way, but also how now I understand the word resilience.
Yeah.
And that I never knew it back then, and I've only got the word just now. Like literally in the past couple of months, that word resilience really sticks with me. But yeah, they had this night, and we were like, "Oh, you have a benefit night if like someone's terminally ill."
Yeah.
So again, we couldn't grasp like, yeah, we've lost everything, and we need money, we need clothes, we need to find a house. And everyone was like, "But surely like the insurance will sort that out." And it's like, yeah, but it's the time that they sort. And things with the insurance was a nightmare. We'd had a phone call in the hotel to say, your insurance policy doesn't cover you to stay in the hotel, so you have to leave the hotel today. And we were like, we've been in the hotel for, I think it's about 7-8 days. And I was like, the insurance policy does cover that. My job was dealing with policies and procedures, so I'm a bit of a policy and procedures fan. And the guy on the phone said to me, "Have you got your policy there then?"
No, you ain't.
Yeah. And I was like, seriously, I've had a house fire, lost everything, and you're asking me if I've got a copy of a paper policy? So we ended up leaving the hotel, going to Gary's mum's, having an argument with the insurance, which was days. And then in the end, they were like, "Yeah, you are covered." And you just think, oh. And to this day, when somebody says to me, "Oh, you should get home insurance," I'm like, it's not worth the hassle. It is not worth the hassle.
How were you and Gary at this time? Because obviously you're both very stressed, you ain't got nothing, and then like you're going from a hotel to his mum's, and now you ain't got your own space.
Yeah. I don't even think the word stress could even explain it.
Yeah.
We were just, looking back, we never really spoke a lot. We were both really quiet, still trying to get our heads around it. And literally, if one of us was asleep, the other one was awake. There was the routine of everything had gone, and we were just like,
"What now?"
Yeah. And it was just, I mean, we helped each other through it, and there'd be points where I would literally be sobbing and thinking, what is going on? And it doesn't make sense about the house, and why this, and then, you know, you'd speak to people, and then people would ask you questions, you think, oh, didn't think of that, or I don't know, and everything was just like, and then the same with Gary, but we'd never really talk about it. And then I think we'd gone the park for a walk, and we came back to Gary's mum's, and then we were like, we need some normality here. We need to go and do something. We just need to get out. And it was like, well, we've got no money, and that understanding of, I can't just go to the pub and get a pint, or I can't just go to the pictures. It was like, oh my God. And I think that's when the realization kicks in of, well, what do we do? And it's like, yeah, we'll get money coming in from our jobs, but even though we've got no house, we've still got to pay bills.
Yeah.
and people were like, but you're not living there. You don't have to pay Sky. You don't have to pay your phone bill. And it's like, it still needs paying.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was so hard to navigate around.
How long did it take to rebuild?
I don't think we ever fully got there.
I don't think you could.
We moved, we found a new place to live in, which was literally round the corner from there. And it was a gorgeous place. It was it was a 4-story old townhouse with like basement, larder, and it was quirky, which was us, and it still had the fireplace in there to heat the house, and it was fun. I'm giggling because I managed. We had to get chimney sweeps in to clean, and literally they came and they were doing like the Mary Poppins step in time. It was funny. It was that, and that was us.
Yeah.
And we'd got there. We got the house, and literally we had a new couch delivered, and then the insurance would we got delivered a television and the PlayStation. So literally we had the couch, which we slept on, a television and the PlayStation, and we just had that in the living room. And I think we were only there weeks, and things had started being delivered from the insurance, and wardrobes and bed. And we'd gone to bed one night, and normally I'm the deep sleeper. Gary was flat out, and I could hear a noise downstairs. And I looked out, because it's a really old house, the rooms are quite small. And I looked out the bedroom window, and the cars are parked outside on the road, and you could see from the reflection of the cars our living room window, and the light was switched on, and I could see somebody moving. And I'm waking Gary up, and I'm like, there's somebody in the house. And he was like, don't be daft, it's just, you can hear next door. I was like, no, I've seen somebody in the house. So Gary gets up, looks out the bedroom window, looking down, and the living room light gets switched on. You see the guy moving around, then switched off, then switched on. And we're like, oh my God. Gary decides to go out onto the landing to see if he could see what was going on. I follow him. And then the next minute, this guy appears from nowhere. Him and Gary end up fighting on the landing. We ended up locking ourselves in the bedroom, phoning the police. And then literally it seemed like forever. Gary was on the phone to his mum and dad. I was on the phone to the police, and I said to the police, like they were saying, the police were saying the police are here, and I was like, there's no police here whatsoever. And they were like, let us check. They were like, yeah, the police are there. I was like, I can see the guy in the living room. He's already had a fight with Gary. There's somebody else running around. And the next minute, we see the police arrive and Gary's mum and dad come walking down the street. So unbeknown to us, the police had blocked both sides of the road off and we couldn't see them.
Yeah.
So then they come in and you can hear them shouting at this guy and you can hear all this banging and we're like, oh my God. And we locked ourselves in the bedroom and then there was this bang on the bedroom door and the police officer was like, it's the police, you're okay, open the door. And he said, right, we've got the guy. And we're like, okay, what about the other guy? And they're like, no, there's only him. It was like, no, there was another guy. And he was like, okay. So we said to him, have you checked upstairs? And he was like, we are upstairs. I was like, no, if you look that way, there's more stairs. There's another, I'd say that it's 2 levels, but like on one level was the bathroom and then just off that is another bedroom. And he was like, right, okay, stay there. Next minute they had police dogs in. And they found the guy in the wardrobe upstairs.
No way.
Yeah. I mean, but he was like, as soon as we said to him, no, there's upstairs, there's another room up there, he roared at us to get back in the bedroom and lock the door. And then we just felt like we were left. So we're sat on the bed panicking and I kept looking out the window, you could see all the police outside. And we're like, what's going on? And we were told not to leave the bedroom. And it seemed for ages. But luckily they got them. But then, because it was only a couple of weeks from us moving in there, we were like, what the actual...
Yeah. So when you've gone from a house fire to then losing everything, getting your own home, going, fresh start, this is nice, enjoying it again, your own bubble, to now you're not safe.
Absolute mental.
How was it for you when you and Gary first went out on that landing and he started scrapping this burglar? How was that for you?
Horrifying. Absolutely. Just to think, I ran back into the bedroom and thought, well, how do I get out of here? And was like, I'm going to have to throw myself out the window. If anything happens here, I'm going to have to throw myself out the window. And I'm looking back, I'm thinking, oh my God, like old little Victorian windows. But it was just, and when we spoke about it, Gary went to bed with nothing on. So he was fighting with this guy and Gary was completely naked.
Yeah.
So afterwards, like we'd laugh about it.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was just, it was just terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hindsight, it does sound pretty funny.
Yeah. And that, I think, in the end, that's how we started to deal with things, was just like, we just got to laugh about it.
Yeah. That's all you can do, laugh or cry, take your pick.
Yeah.
But I could just imagine down the line, that burglar sat in prison, finds out who burgled, he's like burgled into a gay couple's home, and he's had like a gay man wrestling him naked.
Yeah. Absolutely, it was mad.
Did you decide to stay there then, or would you?
No.
Yeah.
No, we ended up moving out there because it was just, every time we heard a noise, we just couldn't rest at all.
And I suppose as well you'd be thinking like, these guys know where you live.
Yeah.
They could come back because you're gone locked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you moved then.
So we moved, and then where were we then? Yeah, we'd moved and got a house right across the road from Gary's mum and dad's.
Nice.
And it was just lovely.
Mm.
It was we felt safe because they were over the road. Gary had lived there all his life, so we knew all the neighbours. I'd lived close by before, so I knew everyone as well. So it was like, right, okay, we feel safe. Everybody knows each other. And it was then, Gary used to have really bad migraines to the point where I thought like he was having a stroke. When the migraines would hit him, there was never any warning of I've got a migraine coming. It just hit him, and his speech would go, and he could just never get any words out. And if he could get words out, they didn't mean anything. So he was like it'd be like with his mouth going. So it'd be like, oh, do you want a drink? And it's like, no, don't want to. I'm like, drink of water. Here you go. And he's, no, don't want to drink. And then he kept saying like, sometimes it'd be like knife and fork, and he's trying to say like there's a metallic-y taste in his mouth. He's trying to explain that, but whatever the way he explained it was, he knew what he was saying, but when it came out, it wasn't what he was saying. And they were getting progressively worse. So for his migraines, every time it came on like that, we had to take him to the hospital and they had to give him injections to try and ease it, and he'd be in hospital for like 2 or 3 days, getting over it.
The hospitals would just say migraines, severe, and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
how long was this going on?
God, a couple of years.
Yeah. How regular?
Oof. I'd say he would get about 6-7 migraines a month.
No way.
And to the point where I'd realise where it's start to come on. So if we're out walking the dog, sometimes his leg would go, and then his speech would go a bit funny. So he would appear he'd be drunk. So if you didn't know him, you'd think, oh, he's drunk. And it wasn't. That was the sign of the migraine coming on, and I knew we'd have to get.
So he's getting these severe migraines where he's being hospitalised in hospitals, and this is repeatedly in hospitals saying, "Here's an injection, migraine, fuck off."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that your thought as well? Like they're saying that they're the professionals.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You never thought anything more.
Nothing.
Which understandably you trust a professional.
Yeah.
They know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we were in his mum's. We'd always have family Sunday dinner in his mum's, which was just fab because we'd all come together. And this particular Sunday, I was making the Sunday roast in his mum's, and Gary was like, I'm going to go over the road and I'm going to have a little kip on the couch because I just don't feel right. Now, that is alarming straight away because one, Gary would never say he doesn't feel well. Even if he was ill, he'd still go into work because he was a nurse in the local hospital, and he was like, I can't let them patients down.
Mm-hmm.
And he would always go in. And secondly, he'd never have a kip on the couch at all. So that was like, So he went over, and I went to check him, and then walked in, and the colour of him was just grey. And I tried waking him up, and I couldn't wake him up, and I thought, hang on. And then when he did finally wake up, I was like, do you feel all right? And he was like, no, I can't feel my legs.
How do you react to that? Like, what's your immediate reaction?
Well, because Gary was always a joker.
Yeah.
And I had just literally done first aid at work. So I thought, hang on, he's playing on this now to test me. So at first I thought he was joking, and he was like, no, can't feel my legs. It's okay. Is it migraine? Because he'd always got migraines, but he could talk okay. There was no headaches or anything like that. So we phoned for an ambulance and he went to the local hospital, and we were literally there less than an hour, and the nurse had said, oh yeah, it's a migraine. She said, if you can manage to get him to walk to the end of the bed, then we'll discharge him and you can go and see the GP tomorrow. Now, he couldn't even feel his legs, never mind walk on them.
Yeah.
So
if you can walk 4 or 5 foot, fuck off and it's a GP's problem tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So me and Gary's dad were like, oh, come on then, we'll try. Not even, we were just like, yeah, it's a
20 minutes
migraine.
long, yeah, 20 minutes, yeah.
And then it was like, no, this isn't right. It's not right. And luckily, my job was working with junior doctors, and I knew the consultant who was on at the time, and I went to speak to them and said, look, this isn't a migraine. This is, I don't know what it is, but this is definitely not a migraine. So they sent him for a scan, and the scan came back and they said everything's looking fine. And it was just like, we kept saying it's not right, and they wanted to discharge him and for him to go to the GP. And then the consultant said, well, send him for an MRI. And the MRI came back, and just at the bottom of the scan, they looked at everything, because they looked at his head and was like, everything looks fine there. But then to the bottom of his neck, there was this lump, this mass or whatever. And it was, I think it was the radiographer that spotted it and said, we need to do another scan to see what that is there. And then it turned out that he had a tumour on his spinal cord.
How did he take that?
He said he felt like he knew there was something there.
Yeah.
And he was such a strong-minded, strong-willed person as well. And he was just like, okay, yeah, we'll fight this.
How was you?
At first, I was just like, as a matter of fact, like, right, okay, let's deal with it. Let's see what's what. And it's just then when things started getting worse down the line, was just mad, because he was in that hospital for about 4 weeks, and you could see he was deteriorating in himself.
Still no use for his legs either?
No. But instead of having migraines, he was having these tremors, like really bad shakes, where his feet would contort, like it you know, like when you watch The Exorcist, and it's like,
yeah,
it was literally like that. And his feet were ice cold, and he would pull his hair out because the pain in his head would be that intense. When he asked me to film it, and I've got the videos somewhere, and I think he put them on YouTube to show people what he was going through, because he was like, I'm going to document this because it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And he wanted to show people what was going on, because people never believed him when he said he had a migraine, and how he was when he had a migraine. So now he's got this tumour, and he was having these spasms, this head, whatever was going on with his head, and it was literally he'd scream and scream, and he was waiting to move to the neurology hospital, and they moved him there, and they were like, well, we'll do an operation to try and remove it. If it goes fine, you'll be fine, you'll be walking again, but if it goes wrong or anything, we won't know until after the operation.
So it was 50-50.
So yeah.
How was he going into this?
He, by this point, he was like his sensory, whatever he said, like conversation sometimes wouldn't make sense. So you'd have a conversation with him and it'd be sometimes like a lack of memory of, I'd walk in the room and he'd be like, where have you been? I've just been in the bathroom. We've not been here all day. I have been here all day. And you're like, is this some like dementia or?
Yeah.
And sometimes he'd come across angry and it'd just happen like that. Sometimes he'd be upset, he'd be crying. And for me to deal with that, I was like, I can't cope with seeing him like that, but also I'm not a punch bag for him for the angry episodes.
You're losing the love of your life in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Like dementia, exactly like that.
Yeah, it was mad. And I was still working full time and Gary was in hospital and he contracted sepsis, and then that was like, okay. Now, for the first time he contracted sepsis, it was like, right, this is serious. What do we need to do? And they were like, he was on all kinds of different antibiotics, and sometimes some things would work, some things wouldn't work. And one day I walked on the ward and I was literally handed a leaflet, and I can see the nurse now, and she was like, here, if you read that and just prepare yourself just before you go in, because he's not that good. It's like, okay. And she was like, just prepare yourself for the worst, and tap me on the shoulder. and walking in and seeing him was just like, whoa, I might be losing him here. And that went on several times. It'd get better and then it'd get worse again. And I'd literally get phone calls from the hospital early hours of the morning. Can you come in? This is not looking good. And I'm like, okay. And after a while, it was taking its toll.
Of course.
And I was working in Liverpool, but I had junior doctor interviews in Manchester to help with, and me and one of my colleagues went to Manchester. We stayed over the night before, and I was on antidepressants by this point, and I sat in the hotel room awake all night, and the medication I was on, plus I went and got paracetamol, ibuprofen, and just lined them all up and was like, I need this to stop, and the only way I can make this stop is if I take these. And I just couldn't see a way out for the world to just stop for a minute, for me to, all I could hear was just noise all the time.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can explain it. And I just felt like I never stopped. It was either all work and then hospital, work, hospital work, and it was just, I'd literally lost the plot.
You need to
By
recharge.
then, yeah. And thank God I never took the tablets, but I kept thinking, I'm gonna do it. And that's not like me. I was just then in this, why am I thinking like that? But I could not think of another way to stop everything. And I needed that break. And I went into work and I walked up to my manager and I said, I really need to speak to you right now. And she said, come back to me later on, I'm too busy and you've got work to do. And literally just hearing that, I was just like, to me, I was like, I've reached out.
You're now not a person.
Yeah. And I turned around and I was walking across the office and one of my colleagues, she just came up to me, put her arms around me and she's just, let's go and have a cuppa. And she took me into, like, we had little offices off the side. She was like, take a seat. And she was like, I'm going to go and get you a drink. Stay there. And she come back in and she was like, I know you're not right. She says, if you want to tell me what's going on, you can do. She says, oh, we can sit here in silence. She says, but, and I'm like, now I'm thinking, no, I've got work to do. Because that was the last thing that I've just been told, I've got work to do.
Yeah, nobody cares.
So I was like, I've got work. She was like, no, this stops. And I was like, okay. And literally everything just came out. And I was like, I wanted to end my life. And then as that all came out, and I can still feel it now, the anger that came out after me just releasing everything, that was when I got a ball of anger. And then I was just like, how dare she tell me, stupid, what the fuck am I doing in work? What am I doing? And that was when, then I was like, it was like a fight in me then. And I was like, I might lose him and I'm sat here. What am I doing? And it was like, it was then like a wake up call, because I managed to just speak to somebody. And it was, I remember trying to explain it to Gary's mum and dad, because they lived across the road. But as I was coming back from seeing Gary, they'd be going to visit him. So we never really got that chance to sit down and speak to each other about how we were all feeling, because obviously it's their son and they saw what I saw. So then we were like, we can't all go together because
you need someone there at all times to break it up.
So there wasn't that, and it was hard to explain. If I spoke to my mum and dad, it was hard to explain what Gary was going through because they couldn't see it. And to say somebody's just like having a spasm or something, you don't realise how hard it was. And so then it was only then that I was like, right, I need to go off work. So I thought, I still need to do something, so I'll drop my hours. So I can keep work happy and I can try and get a sleep here.
Yeah.
So it was mental, absolutely mental, where looking back thinking, why didn't I just go off? But I dropped my hours and then was like, no, can't even do it. I can't do this anymore. And I went off sick completely. And I started to lose that much weight that I was like, I'm going to make myself ill. But then on the hospital journeys, and everything was just fast food then. So then I started piling the weight on. And it was just like, Gary had his operation and the hospital rang to say he's out of his operation and is in intensive care. So we were like, oh, okay. Now, they said the operation would have lasted about 6 hours, and it was about 2.5, 3 hours, the operation. So we were like, what? That's a good job.
Yeah.
So me and his mum and dad got to the hospital, walked into intensive care, and Gary is sat up in bed. And I think he was having an ice cream or something. So we were like, oh, this has gone really well.
Yeah,
this is brilliant, this. We were like, oh, yeah. And then the consultant came and was like, I've been in, I've had a look at his back, and the tumour was literally like a tarantula wrapped round his spinal cord, so they couldn't get all of it out. But as they were in there, all Gary's stats were coming down, and they had to stop the operation. Otherwise, he would have died on the table. So we were like, oh, God, so what does that mean now? So they were like, he's going to need a lot of rehab, and we'll see how he goes. And the realisation of him being told, nobody really told him he wouldn't walk again.
Yeah.
It was only until he went to the rehab in Southport when he said to the consultant, what is happening, what's going to be the outcome here? And the consultant said, well, you're never going to run for a bus again. And it was then where Gary's bit of humour came back, and he was like, I've never ran for a bus in my life. And that, when you think, oh, there's that hope now.
He's back.
Yeah. And the consultant said, well, you'll be lucky if you even walk to it. And the consultant was straightforward. It wasn't like, it wasn't just a passing comment. It was just, that's how it is. And you couldn't speak to Gary like that. You're going to have to soften it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so he was like, who is he? And now you start to see his fight coming back. But then the realisation of, you're never going to walk again. And months down the line, so he's been away probably about 7-8 months now in hospital. And he went then from Southport spinal unit to a rehab place in Southport, and was doing physio, and was getting better by the day. And they had like a heated swimming pool where literally he could walk in the pool, and he was like, it's the only place I can walk. So he then was like, oh, I've got to be in water all the time. And he was enjoying it. He got used to being in the wheelchair, and then the realisation of him coming home, and yeah, well, it was a bit of both, because his world now was with people who understood what he had gone through, because they'd gone through the same.
Yeah.
And he was starting to see the world in a different way than what we had done together as a couple before. So it was like, it was seeing this different person to who I'd known as well. And trying to navigate, like sometimes he'd be like, don't come and see me today. Why? Why do you not want me to come and see you? No, don't want it. So sometimes he'd be like, just get me out of this place, I want to come home. So obviously he had a lot to deal with. And in the rehab, they had counsellors, and he would go and see the counsellor, and I remember him saying, he sat there for the first hour with the counsellor, he didn't speak at all. And the counsellor said, it's your time. You get an hour, a week, whatever it was, to come in. It's up to you. And he was quite obnoxious with her, and obviously he wouldn't accept that there were changes to come because it'd been through a lot.
Yeah.
And looking back, I at the time, I'd be like, I'll just go in and speak to her, and he'd be like, no, I'm not going in. So eventually he started speaking to the counsellor, and when they mentioned about coming home, he was like, oh, I'm coming home. Great, fantastic. And then you realise, hang on a minute, we live in this house where how am I going to get you upstairs? How are we going to do this? How are we going to bath you? What's going to happen? Do we get carers in?
Yeah.
And there was all these questions. And what was fantastic about Southport Spinal Unit and the rehab centre was they would have a meeting every month with everybody that was involved in his care. Now, Gary would go to this meeting and he'd ring me afterwards and he'd say, there was a woman in there, never seen her in my life. She said this about me, she said this about me. I was like, okay. And he'd always come out angry. And every time I'd ring the hospital up and I'd always speak to the same woman. And she'd be like, oh, yeah, we've had the meeting. This is all lovely. And she'd explain things to me and I'd be like, but that's what, he's not saying that to me. And then I got asked to go into one of the meetings and it was literally like physio, the consultant, everybody that was involved in his care. And they'd go around the table and explain what they'd done with Gary and how they'd do things and how he could look forward to coming home. And then I was like, how do we manage at home? So then they were explaining about care packages and I was like, right, okay, I'm going to have to sort this. And then the realisation of I'm going to have to leave work completely to be his full-time carer. And I was like, right, okay, this is what we've got to do. We've done everything together, so we're doing this together. And I went home that day, got rid of the dining table and brought the bed from upstairs downstairs into the dining room to think, right, okay, when he comes home, we've got the bedroom downstairs. Not even thinking of bathroom, cleaning, nothing like, there's his bed, he can get in, get to bed. And then we had to go through this whole thing of getting somebody to come and have a look at the house. And they were like, oh yeah, you can get a stair lift in there, you can get this, right, okay. And then you have to get in touch with the council, and the council have to come around and assess. So there's all this process of waiting. And then them saying, no, you can't get a stair lift there because it just wouldn't fit. Or you can't get a grant for that, or you have to pay for that. And you're like, how?
Yeah.
And then it's like, how much is it going to cost for you to come home? I'm like, right, okay, let's navigate this bit. And it was just from then, that was such a hard thing to go through, that whole journey of him going into hospital, seeing him, how bad he was, being told every week or so that he's got worse and he'd contracted pneumonia, sepsis, and this is the last time. And you're like, oh. And I had that for months.
Yeah.
So we kind of got used to the fact that was, right, phone call, like, right, okay, come on, let's get back in there, let's see what's going on. And we got used to that. So every time they said he was ill, it was like, right, okay, deal with it again. But navigating what was to come next with trying to get funding, leaving work, becoming his full-time carer, benefits was just a nightmare. He was pensioned from the NHS, so he had his pension, and then I was getting carer's allowance, which was something like £50. And you're like, how? I'm working 24/7 and I'm getting paid nothing really. And I'd been to the job centre to see about the benefits and everything, and they explained everything to them, and they were like, yeah, okay, this is what you can apply for, this is everything. And a couple of months down the line, it was like, oh, you're on the wrong benefit. So why am I on the wrong benefit? They were like, oh, you've been put on the wrong benefit, you should be on this benefit, so now you've got to pay £3,000 back because you've been overpaid. So I ended up going to court and just like, this is ridiculous. And I've got, because I'm a order and a policy procedures guy, I've every bit of paper from his journey I've got, from hospital appointments, the benefits. So I've got folders all like this at home. And I was just like, no, you said, and I kept going in with evidence, this is this. And they were like, yeah, but you're not allowed, you shouldn't be on that. So now you've got to pay back. And I'm like, but that's not my fault.
Yeah.
I come to you and you said, right, this is what you should be on. So we had all that to deal with. At that point, Gary was coming home. He was allowed home for a day to get that adjustment.
The transition.
Yeah. So he'd come home for a day, and then it would be a night, and then it would be, you can go home for the weekend. And Gary, it was a person who'd always test the boundaries of everything, would be like, so can I go home for like a week? They're like, no. What about 3 days? No. And it'd go from the day to the night to the weekend to then 3 days and 4. So he was getting, so every week he'd be coming home and we'd been navigating him I'd have to rely on his dad or someone else to be there to try and get him into the house. And there'd be times where we really struggled, and there'd be times where he was just on the floor and the lads in the street would have to come over and help us to pick him up and take him in. And it was only when he got home, it was like, well, where does he go to the bathroom? Where does he go to clean, to shower? So they were like, well, you can have a commode. And he was like, but now I've got to go and shit in the kitchen. Yeah. He was like, it's
not humane for the rest of your life, is it?
No.
It's not dignifying.
No. So then the realisation of, we're going to have to move now. And we had all the problems with the benefits. And it was just like, how much more can we take? And eventually we got a bungalow. So by now, I'm his full-time carer. We'd sorted the benefits out. We'd settled into the bungalow, and then COVID hit, and that kind of brought him down. His mum was ill at the time, so him and his mum, if they couldn't see each other every day, they had to be on the phone every day, and not just the one time. It was just several times during the day, and that was him and his mum were in their own little world with that. And that kind of took a toll on him, not being able to go out, even where we lived, going out in the wheelchair, trying to navigate that was just, some drop curbs would be there, so we could literally getting across the road, you'd be like, oh, there's a drop curb, but then how do we get you up onto the next one, because there's no drop curb on that one? Or we'd be going over paths which would be so narrow, and then getting onto the other side and thinking, right, that's a big drop, I can't There's nowhere for us to go. We're going to have to go all the way back. So navigating that, and then getting him around so we can go shopping. So we applied for a Motability car, and then we had to get where it was adjusted. He had to then have the electronic wheelchairs.
Yeah.
So trying to get funding for that, and people trying to help us out, and somebody set up a GoFundMe page for us to try and get the money. And the one thing that hit me at the time was when they said he could come home, they were looking for him somewhere for him to go, some kind of unit. And he was like, well, can Dean come to live? If I'm living in a unit, does Dean come as well? And they were like, no, it's just for you. And he's like, so you're separating us. But then there's nowhere for young adults, mid-aged adults to go. So you've got places for young children,
Yeah.
and you've got places for elderly people, and everyone in the middle, there's nowhere for them to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the care and the rehab and the funding, there's just nothing there. And we were lucky enough to when I was looking for funding for his chair, was trying to find places for like rehab, heated swimming pools so we could get him out. And I managed to find on the internet, it's called RUPRI, Spinal Trust, and they give funding to people to have more rehab. And we were lucky enough to get a grant, but we'd have to go to Cambridge for the rehab, and that did him the world of that just opened him up to more positivity and to think, I can do this. And it got him exercising, it got him more focused, where he was like, right, yeah, I can deal with this now. And we managed to get another grant with them the following year, and they helped us so much. And if it wasn't for them, I think he would have just been stuck in the house.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had more problems with the benefits. We had no money, relying on food banks, relying on friends and family to help us out with food, with money. It was just awful, absolutely awful. To the point then I was like, I don't know if I can carry on again. And I don't know what to do this time.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we're at home together. But if I do something to stop this, he's left on his own, and I don't want him left on his own. So what do I do? And I'm finding it hard to carry on. And I had this realisation of, if I don't look after myself, I can't look after him. But then if I'm not here, who's going to look after him?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I don't know what to do. And before we got married, we went to Slimming World to lose weight, so we look good getting married. And I thought, do you know what? By this point, I hadn't spoke to anybody, any of my work colleagues. It's just literally contact is just because looking after him was so full on.
Yeah, it's
the realisation of,
isn't it?
I don't speak to anyone. And literally, it's either a conversation with a doctor, the GP, a nurse, a physio, or his mum and dad, or my mum and dad, and family, and that was it. And I'm like, but I don't go out, I don't see anyone, I'd forgotten the interaction with people. So I thought, right, okay, I need a time where I've got time for me. And that's when I got in touch with the local carers place. And they were like, okay, let's look at funding for a carer to come in so you can have that time for you. And a lot of people always said to me, well, you can get in touch with social services, it's all free, you get this, get this, get this. And it's like, no, it's not all free.
Yeah.
You've got to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And because Gary received his pension and he was something like 12p over the threshold of, if he had 12p less, then we could have had the world of everything, of things like somebody coming in to help to care for him, and we wouldn't have to pay for it. But because we were 12p over, and you're like, wow, okay. It was just, I'm stuck. Yeah, and it's awful. It's absolutely, it's bad. I feel for people now who are carers, because the lack of support and lack of funding for both the carer and who they're caring for is just awful. I was lucky enough that when I realised I needed that social interaction, I went back to Slimming World, because I thought, right, okay, at least I'm going to go back to some people that I know, but then there's going to be people in the room that don't know my situation, so don't have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I can just try and be me.
Be you, yeah.
Because I forgot who I was as well. And going back to Slimming World each week is what actually saved me from ending my life. And having that social interaction and having that focus to think, right, okay, I need to get healthy. I need to look after myself, because if I don't, I'm going to end up in a downward spiral again, and I can't look after Gary.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost lots of weight, got more focused, and then I could see things more clearly of, right, we need to fight for what we need. So I ended up fighting for, unfortunately, Gary needed a hospital bed, because he needed I don't know what they're called, a certain mattress for his back. And obviously, because he's not getting any exercise, he can't move around much, so he's gaining more weight. So my thought process again was, right, okay, I'm doing Slimming World to help me to lose weight, so if I do the same for him, it'll have an impact on him. But then he was gaining more weight, and he got told he had chronic liver disease, type 2 diabetes, which then turned into type 1. He had peripheral neuropathy, and then the list kept getting longer and longer and longer. And it was just like, he turned around to me and said, if I was a dog and you took me to the vets, I'd be well gone by now. And his lists of medication was that long, I couldn't even keep up doing his medication. I was like, there was just too much.
Yeah.
Luckily enough, his sister worked in a pharmacy, and she was like, oh, get them in blister packs. But then even the blister packs were that full, and then I'd have extra as well. So again, it was just constant fight and fight. And then again, it picked up where he would have pneumonia, and then they were like, he's got pleurisy, then he's got sepsis, and it was just this constant when are we going to get off this wheel?
Yeah. Always something
Yeah.
negative as well.
Yeah. And we managed to go on holiday to where we had our honeymoon. And there was one thing that he said he wanted to do in his life, and that was to walk in the sea again. And he was like, I'm never going to be able to do it. So I took that as a mission to set for myself to be like, going to get him back into the sea.
Mm-hmm.
No, I couldn't take him to Blackpool. That was just like, no. So I was like, right, okay. Managed to get back to Spain where we went. And I even managed to, obviously it's Spain, and you've got Benidorm and everything, so you can hire the scooters and everything. Managed to sort that out so you could get around easy. He had his own wheelchair, and then he had the scooter that he could get out and about, and he absolutely loved it. And then one day I took him to the beach where we'd go, and I was like, right, come on, we're going in. He was like, I can't. And we got him in. And that for me was just like victory.
Yeah.
Just the look on his face, just to be able to walk into the sea again and just have his moment, that did it for me.
Yeah, of course.
And then we got back, and then obviously that routine kicks in of everything.
Yeah.
And there was one morning where, the week before, his mum had passed away a couple of months back, and that kind of had an impact on him, a massive impact on him, because they were just thick as thieves.
Yeah. Do you think he'd given up then?
Yeah. And he was in his hospital bed most of the day, and I could never get him out, even to sit in the garden. And one day he was like, I want to go and sit in the garden. So I'm like, come on, let's get him out, get some fresh air. And we went in the garden, and we have got a little place in the garden for his mum. And you'll laugh at this, it's a toilet. Because when she was doing the alleyway with a neighbour, they had all baths and toilets and had plants growing out of them and everything.
Yeah.
So we were like, we're going to have to get a toilet with a plant in it. So he was there, and he was talking to his mum, and he came up to me and he said, thank you so much for everything that you've done for me. And he was just like, I couldn't have got this far in life if you had decided to walk away. And there were times when he said to me, you can walk away and leave. You don't have to live this life with me. And I was like, no, till death do us part. You're the love of my life.
Yeah.
And he went back inside, and then he was like, can you shower me? Can I have clean bedding and clean pyjamas? I was like, okay. I was like, oh, we're moving on here. And there was a moment a couple of days before where he was talking in bed, and he was looking up, and he was like, oh yeah, Mum, I'll see you soon, Mum. And then he was talking to his gran, and he was like, no, promise, I won't tell Dean. Now I'm sat there, and I could see this going on, and I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And when he'd asked me to wash him that day and he got in bed, the next morning I could hear his breathing. And every time he got pneumonia, there was this breathing that I can't explain how it is, but I just knew that the pneumonia was back. So I got up and I was like, you okay? And he was just blank. There was nothing there. I was like, Gary, you okay? Nothing. I checked his blood sugars, They were fine. Checked his temperature, it was high. I was like, okay, pneumonia's coming back. I'll phone the GP. We ended up getting an ambulance. Ambulance crew came and they did all their obs. And they were like, right, we need to take him to hospital now. It's okay. And this is like the same routine that we've been doing. And they were like, which hospital do you normally go to? Now, we lived in the middle, so we've got Wiston Hospital and the Royal Liverpool. So the Royal Liverpool is where Gary used to work and where people seem to think that's the only hospital that you go to die. And we'd always gone to Wiston because it was more or less closer. And the hospital, the paramedics said, which hospital do you go to? And I said, Wiston. Now, at this point, Gary has got oxygen on. It had not been responded to anything. He took the oxygen mask off and he was like, can you take me to the Royal? Put the oxygen mask on and went back into this trance. Now, me and these two paramedics just looked at each other and was like, did that just happen? And then they said to me, you're best off going in the car, but we're gonna arrange for another paramedic to come and meet us because we might need them. This is looking a bit serious. So I was like, okay. So they went blue lights to the hospital. I was driving along. Got to the hospital and they put Gary into this room. And when I walked in, again, there was just nothing there. And I thought, right, okay, I need to get his dad here because as soon as he sees his dad, he'll snap out of it.
Yeah.
That would be the routine. And the doctors kept saying to me, you need to get him to eat something because we need to give him the insulin. So I'm trying to give him some food and he's just not responding. And then I was like, okay, try for a drink. So I got a plastic cup with water in and passed it to him. And he'd just look at it. There was no words coming from it at all. But he didn't take it from me. But then his hand was out as though he had a cup and he was doing the actions, but he didn't have a drink. And his dad came in and I was like, right, here we go now. And he just looked blank at his dad. And his dad was like, come on, Gar, come on. Let's snap out of this now, let's get back. And he just, no response whatsoever. And Gary's dad was unbelievably upset seeing his son like that. We just lost Gary's mum. And he went, I think he had an appointment he had to go to, so he went to that. And then I said to the nurse, I need to go home to sort the dog out. The dog's on his own. I've been in hospital for quite a while.
And this is normal routine anyway.
And this, yeah. So she was like, okay. I was like, if anything changes, ring me. So goes home, sorts everything out at home, gets back to hospital, and I walks in to A&E, walks to the room where Gary is, and his doors were closed. Now, normally, Gary would be like, close the doors. So it was nothing unusual. I went to open the doors, and as I opened the doors, there must have been about 12 people in there. And one of them came out and said to me, "Oh, come and sit in this room. We're just sorting something with Gary out and we'll come and explain what's going on." I was like, okay. And I was sat in the family room, now working in the NHS, and Gary was a nurse, and I was like, okay, this is getting a little bit more serious than what we've been through before. And the consultant came in and she said, Gary has got an infection. How would it be? She says, we need to take him upstairs to ICU and we're going to take him up quite soon. She says, but if he needs an operation where he needs machines for his organs and things like that. I said, well, we spoke about that before, because the consultant did explain that the way Gary would go, his organs would slowly start to fail.
Yeah.
So we would need some kind of machine or something to help. So we knew that when we got to that stage, we knew we'd kind of looking at, oh, hang on, he might not have long.
Yeah.
But we never got to that stage. She was like, how would you feel if, I can't remember what it's called, where we have like the tube there. How would you feel if he had that? I said, oh, he'd pull that out. She was like, how would he feel if he had a machine helping him to keep going? I said, turn it off. And she said, you say that with such matter of fact. I said, we've had a long time to talk about it.
Yeah.
We prepared ourselves. The consultant said, prepare yourself. And we did. We always spoke about when the time came, if it got that bad that he had machines to keep him going, Gary always said to me, don't leave me on my own, because I'll just turn them off. And I was like, okay. And I explained this to her. She was like, okay, fine. She was like, is there anyone that you need to ring? I said, I'll ring Gary's dad and his sister. And she was like, okay. She says, all I would say is prepare yourself for the worst. And I was like, we've been through this. And I was just like, yeah, this is kind of what's gone on before, but
yeah.
I knew this was worse than what, but we'd been there before several
come through.
times. And she was like, I'll get the other consultant to come and speak to you. I was like, okay. And Gary's dad and sister turned up, and I was explaining to them, saying, look, she said prepare for the worst. They were like, okay. And again, they were like, we've been here before, and he's pulled through it. And the consultant came in and he said, I'm going to take him up now. What I'm going to say to you is, go into the room now and say your goodbyes. We were like, well, we'll be back. And he was like, I'm telling you now, it can go one of two ways. Either it's not going to be here, or it'll be here, but we don't know what damage is going to be done. And they had to put him in an induced coma. So literally, we said our goodbyes, went home, and I got the phone call like 2 o'clock in the morning to go back. And I was like, right, okay, this is it. And we went back to the hospital and we walked in, and the doctor met us at the end of the corridor, and he said, I'm really sorry. And I was like, oh no, it's okay, you've done the best you can do. And he went, no, really sorry, but he's going now. And we walked into the room where he was, and I've never seen anything like it. There was literally machines on both sides of him. And we were like, what is that? And they were like, that's all the stats, that's all the medications. And it was like, and then he was like, and this here, that's his heartbeat. And as you can see, it's dropping. And I think it was 39 when we'd gone in, and it was just literally going. And me and his sister on one side, and literally, as the doctor went, he's gone, a tear rolled from Gary's eye, and was literally, and we were like, me and his sister were like, can't believe that. And we were like, we took that as Gary was like, right, goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't comprehend that he'd gone, because it was just like, we've done this before. And it was numb. And it just, yeah, couldn't believe that he'd gone. And I think, like, gone back to Gary's sisters, and then eventually when I got back home, and then realising that he's not coming back, and then looking around and thinking, there's an empty wheelchair, hospital bed. What am I going to do? What's happening now? And I got a phone call from social services to say they'd been notified that he'd passed away, and literally the hospital bed was taken 2 days after. And I was like, it took us months to get up the hospital bed, and yet it takes you 2 days to come and collect it.
Yeah, and not even that. Like, you haven't come to terms with losing him, and like, for you, looking at him, he's either in his wheelchair or that bed. Like, that's a part of him, and you haven't had a chance to even process it. Now that's gone.
Yeah,
deal with it.
It was literally like anything that he needed was just then taken away that same week.
And like, with the bed going on, like, Dean obviously passing has left a space in your life, and now it's physical. Like, now the bed's gone, you've now got a physical space in front of you.
Yeah,
which is a reminder.
Yeah, and it was, our living room was quite a large living room, but I had to change that into the bedroom. And obviously he's got the hospital bed, and I've got a single bed, and it was like that space is gone, and still now I can't fill that space.
Yeah,
that space there is still empty.
It's his space.
It's I can't put anything. I can't put anything up against the wall. It's just strange. I just can't.
How did you get on, fucking day by day after this?
It was hard, but I had friends and family who reminded me that how much laughter me and Gary had in our lives. And even though we'd been through absolute shit times, we got through it. And I was like, okay. But for me, realisation set in of, well, actually, who am I? Who am I now that Gary's gone?
Yeah.
Because everything has been Dean and Gary. So
for the last 20 years now, that's gone.
Yeah. And I was like, no matter when we were younger and had no cares, and then everything that we went through, it was just, we were always together. And now that's gone. So now it's just like, I don't know what to do. And then again, realisation kicks in of, I need money.
You're no longer a carer.
So yeah, I'm no longer a carer. And back to the job centre and thinking, I can't deal with these people because everything is just either you can't understand it, you get told you can claim one thing, but then you can't claim this. And there's just so much that goes on that...
Not even that, like, my thought process is, like, you've just been through fucking hell. You've lost the love of your life. You ain't ready to fucking do anything. And now straight away it's like, the bed's gone. We're taking your money off you. You're no longer a carer, Dean. Now get yourself back in work, sunshine.
Well, that was it. It was literally, the car had to go back because it was a mobility car. So the car went back. So I'm like, so I've got no money. There's no transport. What am I doing? And then I'm like, what do I do for work? I just don't know what to do. And when I had to go back and talk about benefits, and they were like, well, you get like you get this bereavement payment each month, which is, I think it's £100, and you don't have to search for work for a year because you get this like kind of bereavement leave. But because I've always been on the go, and because I knew that Gary's life at some point would end, not the way and how soon it happened, but I was just like, well, I don't want to be sat at home doing nothing, and I don't want to be sat at home looking where the bed was and thinking, what am I going to do? Because the thought was, I didn't want to feel more depressed or go down and think, okay, because the thought's always there of, what if I feel that low again, that I want to end it.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I've got to live my life, because Gary can't live anymore.
Yeah.
So I've got to do it for the both of us. And when I was in the job centre, I was like, I can't sit at home, do nothing. And they were like, well, this is the process, and you have to go through a bereavement process. So why don't you speak to a counsellor? And for a short while, went talking therapy, but it was done on like Zoom with other people, but you weren't allowed to speak, so it was talking at therapy, and it was just somebody telling you how to cope with certain situations, but it wasn't personalised for me.
Yeah.
Or it was
someone who's never gone through it is giving generalised advice.
Yeah.
From a textbook.
And literally, I was sat there and I'm thinking, this means nothing. But now I've got 12 weeks of this, and I'm like, this is a laugh, because it's not helping. It's making me feel worse, because now somebody's telling me how to cope with something that means nothing to me, because I can cope with that. It's the loss of him and the way I need to move forward. I need help with, and need to talk to someone to help me to understand, where do I find myself again?
Yeah, how do you
what
do
do
it?
I do? How do I adjust? And that wasn't there.
Yeah.
So again, I turned to the one thing that helped me when I struggled before, and I went back to a Slimming Well group, and I thought, that is what got me focused. And it got me out of the house once a week, and it got me focused on cooking. And then I started to do little videos on social media, and was posting my meals and things like that, and that gave me something to do.
A good distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I started enjoying it. And then years before, the consultant in the world was like, oh, you'd be a brilliant consultant. And I was like, no, working full time, love my job. And then this time around, I was like, do you know what? Do you know what I want to do? I want to be a Slim World consultant. And some people were like, it's too soon. It's too soon for you to do anything. I was like, but what is the time limit? When is it time?
Yeah. Is it ever time, do you know what I mean? Is it ever okay to laugh again?
Yeah. So I just thought, no, I'm doing it. So jumped in with both feet, and it was the best thing I've done. And until recently, because I'm not doing it at the minute, but meeting other people who have gone through life with problems, you realise you're not the only one that's had problems. You're not the only one that's gone through that situation. There are other people who have gone through that or something worse. And I started to meet more and more people through Slimming World, consultants, going to different groups, and you realise how much heart, how much love, how much different kind of support is out there. And that, for me, that's the talking therapy.
Yeah.
It's that sense of community.
Normal everyday people.
Yeah.
Not preaching.
Yeah. Not somebody who doesn't know. They haven't been through it.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, and I say now, Slimming World saved my life for different ways and for different reasons.
Yeah. And
until recently, I had to stop being a consultant because of the benefits again. Put the 2 pence worth in and tell me that I can't do it. And now it's like, okay. And I'm like, I'm defiant, because when you get told you're not meeting the minimum income threshold and you have to give up something, it felt like somebody had stabbed me in the heart, twisted it, and then twisted it again.
Yeah.
Because I get upset again now. It's not about me going in helping people to lose weight. It's about those people coming in and getting a sense of community and getting support from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the joy that I get from that is hearing their stories and seeing them have that moment of time where I had, where it's about you and you don't have to worry about what's going on. And the joy for me as well is seeing them lose weight and their confidence growing.
Yeah.
And that is just, it's beautiful.
Of course, yeah.
It is. And people will always say to me, but Slimming World consultant, you just work 1 day a week. And it's like, no, it's more than that. But the job satisfaction from it.
Of course. Like, I think that's like, yeah, it's working 1 day a week, but what about all the prep every other day of the week?
Yeah.
So a professional boxer, does he work one night every 3 months? No. He's training every single day and leading up to it.
It is. And I've never, ever come across a place of work or a group of people where you can sit and have an open conversation without judgment, and you feel the warmth. And like today, I'm off to Birmingham because it's the Slimming World annual ball, and I just can't wait to get into a room full of positive people.
Yeah. And
see some members there who have done amazing, but to hear their journey, because it's about them. It's about people in there. Yeah. And I think that's how we should be in life, is look at people and not be judgmental. We look at something and we judge straight away.
Of course, yeah.
And I've learned now to look at something and ask a question about it, rather than, if I see somebody in an old banger, but they've got personalised registration plate, and you think, oh, look at that dickhead, look at the car, but it's like, instead of being that judgmental, why not question
the story?
The story, but what's behind that?
Yeah.
That could be someone's granddad's car, or...
I literally say similar in regards to drug addiction. Like, yeah, he's a drug addict and he's out shoplifting to fund it, but why is he taking drugs?
Yeah.
Look at that first. Address why he's taking drugs. Perhaps they're burying something, they're hiding something, they're running from something.
Yeah.
Address that first, then the shoplifting and that will stop him with the drugs, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's address that first, but it's never done. Same as mental health issues. You can go to the GP and say, yeah, I'm feeling sad. Well, here's some tablets for feeling sad. Okay, but what about why I'm feeling sad? Don't bury it.
Yeah.
Why am I feeling sad? Let's talk about that. It's nice, some antidepressants, fuck off.
It is. It's if you mask it, it just gets worse.
Well, I think there's not professional help understanding.
Mm.
Like you said, like Slimming World, it's a community, and that's through lived experiences.
Yeah.
Like the advice you lot can give each other in there is better than your fucking Zoom call with a counsellor.
Yeah.
Because they ain't had that lived experience, and there's not. There's less. They don't care as much. I think that's where it is.
It is, and we've lost out in the world. We've lost that community feel. Like there's no churches or community centres that are open to bring people together.
Yeah.
We just come home, close the door, and we just think, right, that's it. We don't think about the next door neighbour or somebody else down the street who might be going through something.
Yeah.
And then you might see them in the shop and you think, oh, look at the way they look. And it's like, well, understand why they might look a certain way.
No. I've said, like, men with mental health issues, like, a lot of men don't open up. Like, people look at me and they're going to listen to me, or they're thinking, oh, I'm fucking sad and talking about feelings and that. They're going to think I'm up to no good or something like that. But, so you got that whole stigma, which doesn't help at all, like. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? People see this before what they see inside here first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very hard to overcome. And like, I've done it to myself, but.
And I think that's why I've always been open about how low I got, because there should be no shame around it.
No, yeah.
And I just think if I talk about it and it's just made one person just think about not just themselves, could be think about somebody else who they think, oh, hang on, that might resonate.
Yeah.
I just think that's a good reason to just keep on talking about it.
Yeah. That's what I said. Like, if I can open up, and I'll get a lot of professional boxers on here, ex-gang members, lads who've been to prison, if they're opening up, talking about they've been sobbing their eyes out, then it doesn't make you a pussy, does it, for crying?
No.
Yeah.
We've all got the emotions.
Yeah. But I think as well with men, especially in today's day and age, like, the cost of living, it's fucking everyone over. Then you've got isolation. Like you said, there's no, you being a carer, you're very isolated, like it's that and nothing else. And then there's no community hubs open for anyone. It's like, if I want to go out and see the boys to make myself feel better, do I come to the pub? Like, A, I'm spending money. B, if I go to the pub, I'm having 15 beers, and then that leads me down a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just the isolation. So you're on your own. And whether it's due to personal issues with alcohol or because of just isolation, like everyone gets caught up in life. Like, do you know what I mean? You being a carer, you can't really reach out to anyone if you can. It's just the end of the phone, whereas seeing someone, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just groups like, you got Andy's Man's Club, like even your Slimming World Club, like they're community run groups. Why isn't the government fucking doing anything? They've got all the money.
That's it.
Why does it take a volunteer?
And there's little groups that have been out there who then don't have funding and just shut. And again, it's where do people go then?
Yeah.
And they just go home, close the door, and like you say, cost of living. It's cheaper to go out and get a bottle of wine than it is to go and get a meal. Yeah. To feed yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's that whole system is just so wrong.
Set up to fail.
Yeah.
100%. That was like, you look at the mental health services, and I say this so many times, like the cost of living, so that's like a now issue. It's huge at the minute. Yeah. So you've got the mental health services, the NHS are getting strangled, they're getting their money took off them. So you've got the NHS, the mental health services, then you've got people like me on bipolar, complex mental health needs, and you've got like schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder, etc., going to these services, getting their help. Yeah. Then you've got people struggling in the moment. Because the cost of living, there's more and more people struggling in the moment. So now they're also going to help. Then you've got people with complex needs getting less treatment. Yeah. And the people who are struggling to die saying, yeah, we'll put it on the waiting list for 2 months' time. I might not be fucking alive in 24 hours. And you tell me to wait 2 months. Yeah. And it's just, yeah. And you've got these fucking God-send volunteers starting their groups, helping people with zero funding. Yeah. And they can't get themselves out there to help others, if that makes sense. Like, there's no exposure for them to get their good work out there. It's just, everything's fucked.
It's sad to think that we live in a world where we once had communities that helped and supported each other, to now the only place you can go and be in a community is go to the pub, if there is a pub, by you. And it's like, people can't afford to socialise, and that sounds mad.
Yeah.
Because you think, well, we socialise all the time, but there's less and less places to go.
And say, you can go for a walk out and about, like, we live in England, like, we ain't got the greatest weather. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's going to depress me more, walking in the rain, in the cold. Like, yeah, that would be depressing me more. Yeah.
And I think, as well, the way that I've started to look at things is when I've stopped being judgmental and I start questioning and I start to look at things, is to appreciate why things are happening. So with the weather, I'm like, I can't do anything about the weather, so it's raining. And then I kind of say to myself, well, why is it raining? Well, it's watering the trees, watering the plants, it's helping the wildlife. Can it help me? And he's like, what can I do? And then he's like, shall I get my coat on and go for a walk? And then it's like, oh, no, it's absolutely peeing down. But then it's like, but when it stops, what's stopping me then from doing it? And that's when you get stuck in that routine of, well, I thought about it before, I'm not doing it. But I now go for walks. Helps, now I've got the dog as well. Like, the dog has been a saviour as well, to get, because I've got to go out. Yeah. I've got to go out, I've got to walk him. And he determines the walks, whether it's a 2-minute walk or a 2-hour walk. It's all down to him. Yeah. It's not, I'm not in the equation, it's down to him. But I love it. I love when I was looking for work, when Gary had passed and was in that in-between stage, I did a mindfulness diploma and a mindfulness eating diploma, because I thought, I need something, I need to get this working again. And it's just, again, just taking the moment to appreciate that moment that you're in there. Yeah.
Right, Dean, last couple of questions.
Yeah.
First one, what would you say, with your experience, somebody who's in a similar situation where they're at home carer round the clock, what advice would you give to them?
Appreciate that 1 second you get to yourself, because that'll build up slowly. Talk, whether it's to yourself to just get feelings and emotions out, or to somebody else. If you can speak to anybody, definitely try and get some kind of support. Yeah. But if you can't, it's that, speak it out to yourself or keep a diary and write your emotions down, write everything down, how you're feeling, because keeping it locked up inside, it just then starts festering inside. So I know people say there's light at the end of the tunnel, but sometimes life's harder than that. So I would just keep going, keep fighting, because you're stronger than what you think.
Yeah. And there is light at the end of the tunnel, but the tunnel's not always straight.
No.
Yeah.
And with this cost of living crisis,
yeah,
there might not be no light to put on.
True that. So next question, what advice would you give to someone who has just lost the love of their life?
I would say take time to appreciate what you've had, and things will get better. Might not feel like that right now, but you have to live your life and you have to find yourself again. Whatever person you might end up being after what you've experienced is completely down to you. But make sure that you enjoy every single moment of life, because now it's your turn for you to live.
How did you get through those initial days, the silence, anniversaries, Christmases. How do you get through that?
It was hard because alcohol is so cheap, and I'd just be like, I'll have a glass of wine, and it'd be like, I'll have a glass of wine to celebrate the times, but then I'll finish the wine off. And then with the alcohol becomes the emotion and the anger, and that I could never deal with. I'd get more angry, but then I'd think, oh, well, I'll have more alcohol to make me feel better.
Yeah, to calm me down.
And I'd never made that connection of, well, the more I'm having it to make me feel better, it's actually making me feel worse because all these different emotions come out. But over time, I've gone, I don't need the alcohol. I actually need to just appreciate that time and think, not in a harsh way, but that was then. And now I've got to live now.
Live for now.
Yeah.
What's done's done.
Yeah.
It's not harsh, it's reality, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to hear the harsh reality.
Yeah.
What's done's done. You can sit and mope and cry, or just pick yourself up and try and carry on the best you can.
Yeah.
And then last question, what I'd like to finish on. You sat here today with all your knowledge and wisdom, can go back to a 13-year-old you. What would you say to yourself?
Ooh. Keep going. No matter what life throws at you, you'll navigate your way through it. And never forget who you are as a person.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah, I like that. Right, mate, anything to finish on?
No, just, it's been great.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Yeah, it's different episodes what I usually do, but it's something I'm interested in, and obviously there's going to be people listening who are going through similar, being through similar. It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to From Rock Bottom. If this episode spoke to you, please subscribe, like and share. It really helps us keep doing this work and bringing these stories to light. You can also follow us on social media for updates, behind the scenes content and ways to get involved in the conversation. Most importantly, if you're struggling right now, please don't suffer in silence. Reach out, talk to someone, seek support. You are not alone, and you are absolutely worth life. Take care, keep fighting, and we'll see you in the next episode.